2023, Thursday, March 28th. Thank you all for being here. Happy Women's History Month. Salute to you all. We're going to get started with our public gallery session. And first up, we have, and just a reminder, you have 2.5 minutes to speak, 30 minutes for responses. Our first guest is Val from Sage Events.
I need to charge you.
Just make sure you speak into the mic.
Committee Board 12, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Val Balgovin. I'm the owner of 4848 White Plains Road. It was formerly the Elegant Rose Hall, and until 2012 when I rented out, and after then I had a severe problem with one of my tenants. So I finally get it back in November of 22. Did a massive renovation. I'm just here to inform the committee board and the neighborhood that we are open for business as an event space rental. The name is Sage Events Hall. And it's nice. Who would like to come and view it. It's beautiful. We have 4 ballrooms and you can rent it for any event. Weddings, birthdays, sweet 16, repasts, even divorce if you want. Thank you all very much and have a good evening.
How do people get in contact with you?
Right. 917-575-7547 or 914-733, 433-7089. 914-433-7089 or 917-575-7547. Again, the name is Val. Thank you.
And who should they ask for you, Val?
Val.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have Ms. Amanda from Equality Charter School.
Good evening, everyone. I have some help with me. This is my fabulous colleague, Mr. Campbell, and we have our parent coordinator, Ms. Ramsey, who's with us today. My name is Ms. Amanda, and I'm going to be the elementary school principal of Equality Charter School. Thank you. I am especially right for Women's History Month. I'm currently the middle school principal. I've been the middle school principal for 10 of the 15 years of the school. We're here tonight because while our middle school is located in Section 5 of Co-op City, we co-locate with the wonderful PS 160 Walt Disney STEAM School. And we have members on the community board who've seen the value that we add and the partnership that we play with community district schools. Our new location, our permanent space will be located at 801 Bartholdi. And so with our incubation space next year at 3901 White Plains Road. And so we have some information that we wanted to share with you all. Again, it's really a privilege to be able to do the work that I do at our middle school and will do at our elementary school. I'm a Bronx native, continue to be in the Bronx, raise my children in the Bronx. And I come from a family of educators who really believe in choice for families. I'm not a charter proponent. You're not going to hear me talk about one school setting versus another. It's about quality education and giving our families an opportunity to make a choice that is in the best interest of their child. So thank you so much for listening to us tonight. We plan on also doing a longer presentation during the community education board meetings. But if you have any questions, I'll also leave some of my cards so you can direct them our way. Thank you.
We have some questions yet.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Goff. I'm an educator retiring from PS 21. I know the school very well. I know the lady and gentleman that's be running the school. My question is that you're moving out of 160.
So to clarify, our elementary school, which will be grades K through 5, right now next year it's just K and 1, and then we'll expand 1 grade level each year. And our high school, which is currently in Community School District 8, is relocating to Community School District 11. We were always supposed to be only in Community School District 11. There just wasn't space for our high school. Our middle school will continue to share space with PS 160 inside of that building. So our middle school isn't going anywhere. It'll continue to stay in Section 5, but our new elementary school and our high school will join at 801 Bartholdi in the fall of 2025.
Okay, so in September of 2024, where would you be?
Our KN1 will be an incubation space, 3901. It's it was the Rite Aid Walgreens space. So that'll be our community space, our cafeteria, electives PE space. And then there will be modular classrooms set up in the parking lot of it. There'll be 8 modular classrooms, 4 for kindergarten, 4 for first grade. Those classrooms themselves, like I went to go see them to vet them. We went to a private school in Long Island and I was pushing them sort of like, don't give me the used car salesman and tell me this is what the inside of these classrooms is going to look like. And then I get off the lot and I've got the roll up windows, right? So they have windows, they have heating and cooling units. All of the furniture and the decorations that we plan on us providing in our permanent space are going to be purchased so that those incubation classrooms feel and look exactly like they would when they're in our permanent space. And we just came from an open house at the Allerton Showcase with families, prospective families, because our lottery takes place on Wednesday, April 3rd.
April 3rd.
Yes.
Okay, you have flyers and information?
There should be information in that slide deck there or within our annual appeal.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Question, isn't there a school currently at 801 Bartholdi?
So there was a school at 801 Bartholdi, I think 2 years back. That school moved out of that location. Before we even began negotiations with that site, the school was already in the process of moving. I think there was, I don't want to speak to that school's business, but I think there were issues in terms of financial situations that came up with that building. And then we learned that that space was then going to no longer be occupied. And so we started negotiations with that. So a developer is coming in and they're going to resurface the building. The inside is being renovated. And then there'll be a 3rd floor that's built on top of the existing 2 floors that'll have a high school regulation gym, that'll have an rooftop playground. We've already started speaking with, we've had longstanding relationships with our political officials, especially Councilmember Riley, to talk about how we can use the site for community events and bringing the community together. We know sometimes how people might feel about charters and sort of put everyone in the same basket. That's not us. And you can speak to the fact that like our goal is to not deplete resources from the community, but to be a value added and to build partnerships with especially community district schools. We know we don't know everything we need to know. We need to learn from others, right? I'm an educator because I love to learn, and it's important for us to continue to learn from others throughout within the community itself.
So you're saying all of this construction will be done before you occupy the buildings?
Fall of 2025. That's why next year we're going to be in incubation space. So we learned that we had been approved for our charter in 2020, 2 weeks before the pandemic shut everything down. So it's been a little bit slower, but we want to be able to get it started. So we'll be in that incubation space for 1 year and then moving into the permanent building.
Okay.
It is.
Miss Amanda, I just wanted to, I'm the TA president for the housing development on Gun Hill.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes, you've been around and I've gotten all of your paraphernalia. But in
Awesome.
any event, I want to invite you to our fiasco in August to help market your situation. We're going to try to
Absolutely.
take the street on Holland Avenue. So I'm going to keep you in mind. And
Thank you so much. And if anyone has, we've been out to daycares. We were actually at Susan E. Wagner yesterday, one of the sites. We plan on going to all of them. And it's not just to sort of do like a spiel. Like I want to sit down, get in front of kids, do a read aloud, talk to teachers. We met with some of the UPK teachers to talk about how do we support the transition of kids from UPK programs to kindergarten. They were like, wait, what do you mean you don't have nap time? I'm like, oh yeah, we're gonna have to think about that. And then telling us that.
Amanda, I'm sorry, we do have a question and I
Got it.
want to invite you back to the committee to do your full presentation.
Absolutely.
Talene, you have a question?
Hi, yes, good evening. How are you, Miss Amanda?
Hi.
I am Talene Dickerson, the Education Youth Services Chair. I have been in contact with Ms. Franco, Caitlin
Yep.
Franco. Right, and I'm sorry you missed my education meeting the other night, but we will be in contact.
Absolutely. Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah,
Right
thank you
there.
for coming
Thank you.
tonight.
Okay, we'll see
Good
you
night,
there.
everyone. Thank you.
Next up, we have Margaret. Margaret. Margaret Rose. She's gonna pass? Okay. Next one, we have Hulda Ryan with Bronxwood Church.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ryan, and I'm here with Ms. Pamela Quarry, the wife of the late Bishop Dr. A.G. Quarry. He was the minister at the Bronxwood International Church of God at 3232 Lurton Avenue.
Just speak a little bit louder.
And we are here to request from the board, the community board, your assistance in giving us your assistance in our application to rename the streets, the corner of Duncan Avenue and Lurton Avenue, where the Bronxwood Church of God is located. We wanted to be co-name the Bishop A.G. Quarry Way or Bishop A.G. Quarry Drive, whichever you would recommend that we focus on as we apply for the co-naming of the project. Reverend Curry was a lead minister at the church, and he ministered there for over 30 years. And one of his major objectives was to include the community, and he had performed many services during the 30-year period for the neighborhood, and we would like your assistance in the application as required. Some of his activities in terms of his philanthropic activities, he assisted, he had organizations or groups in the church to give financial assistance to families in the neighborhood, especially when they had financially.
Hilda, I'm so sorry. This is all great, what you're sharing with us. But the process is that now you do want a letter of support from us, which I believe we would gladly give, but it has to go through committee first. So what you're presenting now, you were presented at Mr. John Isaac's Department of Transportation Committee.
Okay.
Because then we would take a vote there, and then at our next board meeting, we would pass, vote for or against, but it has to go through committee first, which is his committee, and he'll give you the information of when we'll be meeting next, which is in a few weeks.
Okay, so we will get his name.
Yes. He's gonna give it to you now, his email and number, and then you join us at his committee. You'll give us your full presentation, we'll ask questions, and then we take a vote in support of this street naming. Does that make sense? Apologies. No, but it's great that you're here, right? So now we all know that we're gonna go to his meeting coming up in a few weeks, and we'll take a vote on it. But all this information is useful, so you'll bring it back and present it to us again. And you'll have more time.
Right. and
Okay.
You can bring a bio, you can bring a bio of the person that you want the street named after. And you can present that at the Transportation Committee meeting, okay? He's gonna give it to you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Okay, anyone else here in person that would like the floor? Okay, so we're gonna move on to online. Anyone virtually that would like time to present? Okay, so we have, okay, so this concludes our portion of the public gallery session. And next up, we're moving on to the elected officials representative report. Jeffrey Benya, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Jeffrey Pena. I am a community engagement coordinator for the Bronx District Attorney's Office. So we do have a few events coming up. We have our 3rd annual prom dress and suit drive, sponsored by the Bronx District Attorney, Darcel D. Clark, as well as Bronx Fashion Week. We are accepting donations of gently used formal dresses and suits for Bronx High School seniors. They must be clean, no rips, tears, or damages. Bags and shoes are welcome too. And you can drop them off at the Bronx District Attorney's Office, 198 East 161st Street, Bronx, New York, 10451, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. There is a bin located in the lobby. And we are accepting donations until April 19th. Then on May 4th, we are having the prom dress and suit distribution. So we are giving the prom suits and dresses to the high school students. That will be at Bay Plaza Mall, indoors on the 1st floor at a storefront previously known as Mission Shoes, Saturday, May 4th, 2024, from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. The students must bring ID. And if you have any questions, you can always email or call us. And finally, we have Law Day. So if anyone has any or knows any students, middle schoolers, high schoolers, college students that are interested in pursuing a career in justice, please invite them to Law Day. So we're going to have some judges, some assistant district attorneys, lawyers, and they're going to speak about their experiences and network with the students. So that will be on May 1st from 8:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. I believe there will be some breakfast and lunch provided as well. So again, if anyone is interested, please let me know. I will leave my email and phone number in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you. Kira, next.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. It's good to see you all. We have concluded the community board application time. So we're going to be setting up interviews for both re-applicants, so current board members who are up for reappointment, and new applicants. So we'll be reaching out to you via email. Just please be on the lookout for emails. The interviews will be quick and they will be virtual. I do have a few events I just want to share. We're also doing a prom dress and suit drive. I'll share information in the chat on that. State of the Borough will be at Cardinal Hayes High School on Thursday, April 18th. Please RSVP. And lastly, something that we've been hosting at the Borough President's Office and has been really successful is an information session on planning for your future. It has helpful information on healthcare proxies, beneficiaries, trusts, wills. It's something that we've been getting a really good turnout and really good feedback on. And that's going to be April 25th from 6 to 8 p.m. at Bronx Borough Hall, which is the courthouse located at 851 Grand Concourse. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Rochelle. Please let me know if we're saying your name right.
Hi, my name is Rochelle. I am one of the constituent services liaison for Congressman Richie Torres in District 15. One of our recent announcements which was made on March 18 is that Representative Torres was able to secure over $18 million in community project fundings. That was one of the recent announcements for this month. Last month, February 7th, Congressman Richie Torres introduced the legislation to improve community mental health services. And that same day, he also introduced the contracting accountability legislation, which is for public housing agencies to be able to take accountability. And once again, those are the announcements that I have. I will be leaving my email. Once again, the services that we offer are for federal assistance, USCIS, Social Security, IRS, any federal issues. And if anyone has any questions, I will be leaving my email on the chat, and anyone is free to email me. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Greer next.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Grim Mayhew. I am the Bronx Borough Director for the New York City Comptroller's Office. We do have a few updates for everyone this evening. The first one is that our office released a report analyzing the city's major emergency staffing contracts for asylum seeker services. So that analysis found that the prices of services across the 4 contracts varied widely for the same services. Vendors were supplying staff to perform comparable functions at widely different rates from one another, in addition at rates that are significantly higher than the rates usually paid to existing New York City shelter vendors, and in most cases, higher than public sector civil servants. Secondly, the comptroller announced a lawsuit against New York City Transit for failing to pay prevailing wages to workers hired to clean the subways during the pandemic. And then lastly, our office also released an HPD staffing and capacity report. So while the agency has made significant progress in efforts to staff back up after the historic pandemic declines, the loss of institutional knowledge has compounded pre-existing development pain points that delay and hamper projects. And the report outlines management reforms needed to ensure that the agency can fulfill its critical mandate to build and preserve quality and affordable housing. If you have any questions about any of the reports, feel free to contact me at 929-512-1647. And also you can check on our website at comptroller.nyc.gov. Thank you.
If you can put your information in the chat.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, Destiny Wesby.
Hello, good afternoon or good evening. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I am from Senator Jamal T. Bailey's office. I am Director of Operations, and we have a few things that we're doing, and I just want to give you guys the information. I'm going to give a brief information, but I'll make sure I'll put all of the information and my contact as well as the office contacts in the chat. Our office has partnered with New York Common Pantry, as we have been doing for a while now, and Butler Church to provide food distributions. It will be every first and third Wednesday of the month at Butler Memorial at 12 p.m. Their address is 3920 Paulding Avenue. Again, I'll make sure I put that in the chat, as well as every fourth Wednesday at our district office at 959 East 233rd. We also at 2 p.m. will be doing food distributions. Senator Bailey, along with members of the Westchester delegation, will be hosting Korean War veterans for a visit to the New York State Capitol on Thursday, April 4th, 2024. The delegation will coordinate a bus to bring veterans to and from Albany. You can RSVP through our phone number, which will be 718-547-8854. And reservation should be done by April 1st. It'll be in the chat. And in partnership with New York Restoration Project and Bissell Gardens, we're giving away free native species trees at Bissell Gardens on Saturday, April 12th. Please note you'll need to pre-register to pick up the tree. You can call us to do the RSVP. We can do it for you. But again, I'll be sure to put all of our information as well as my email address in the chat.
Thank you. Cynthia, you're next. And if anyone else online of our elected representatives would like to speak, raise your hand online. Cynthia, can you give us 2 minutes? Yeah, go ahead. Okay. Go ahead.
So hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Cynthia. I'm the Legislative Director. I'm Student Services Director and Legislative Coordinator for Councilmember Kevin Riley's office. We have 2 offices, one at 940 East Gun Hill Road and one at 135 Einstein Loop, room 44. Phone number 718-684-5509, email district12, that's district12@council.nyc.gov. Wanted to go over a couple of things, so I'm going to break it down by legislation and events. For legislation, with it being a new legislative session, we have to reintroduce and newly introduce legislation. So there'll be a bit of time as that stuff comes through. One reintroduction that I wanted to highlight is Introduction 645, 2024. Regarding the creation of a pilot program with New York City Small Business Services to connect content creators with small businesses so that we can showcase all the wonderful offerings that our small businesses have and be able to get that talent and that knowledge from content creators and have skill building between the two of them. And just, it's a concept. We want to prove that this could work, so it'll be a pilot program. And then another bill that I wanted to highlight is Resolution 251, 2024, which calls upon the state's education department to allow students to obtain a lifeguard certification and have it count as their physical education credit in high school in an effort to help both the lifeguard shortages and to, promote healthy initiatives. So the goal is to get the state to recognize it as a physical education credit. And so we're collecting letters of support on either of these bills, both of these bills. You can do so by contacting our legislative director, Jason, at jfox@council.nyc.gov or at our legislative office at 212-788-6873. In terms of district events, we actually have 4 tomorrow. So we're starting off with our community clean up, not tomorrow, Saturday. Starting off with our community cleanup at 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Tillotson Avenue and Bowler Avenue. So it'll be cleaning up the corridor. It needs a lot of support. We've been allocating funding through ACE and through other community partners to help keep it clean, but it does need that continuous extra support. So we are requesting volunteers if you're available from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Saturday. Please come out. We'll be happy to have you. And then we're going to be having 2 events, one on each side of the district. One will be at Shoelace Park from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Entrance nearest Bronx Boulevard and East 22nd Street, and then the other in Cobb City at 2049 Bartow Avenue, room 31, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. And then we're also going to be having our Women's History Month event at the Montefiore Wakefield campus. That will be 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. at 600 East 233rd Street. RSVP for that particular event, because it's in the hospital, is mandatory. You can do so at d12events@council.nyc.gov or bit.ly/CM Riley Women's History 2024. First letter of each capitalized, CM all capitalized. In terms of following up on that, I have flyers for everything in the front, and we just got approved our 2 shredding events. So please, if you need anything to shred, keep the dates Friday, April 19th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Eastchester Church of God. This one's in partnership with Carl Hasty, Jamal Bailey, Kevin, and of course, the church and AARP. Please keep it to 3 bags as a limit. And then our others, one will be at, it'll be both on the Section 5 Greenway and the Section 1 Greenway on May 18th, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Same rules. This one is with Jamal Bailey and Michael Benedetto. Any questions?
No, thank you so much for all the
Oh.
information.
I know there was a lot all at once and everyone's distracted by the congressman.
Any questions for Cynthia? Okay, thank you,
No
Cynthia.
problem, flyers are in the front.
Next up, we have our Congressman, Mr. Jamal Bowman.
Good evening. How y'all doing? Good to be here. Good to be here. It's been a very, very, very long time. So it's good to be back. Congress right now is a pretty dysfunctional place, to be honest with you. You watch the news, you see what's going on. Because of the current leadership that's in place, we've had the least productive Congress in U.S. history. So it's been a pretty depressing year and a half trying to govern with people in Congress who are not serious about governing. Hopefully that will change in November, and we will be able to elect our first Black speaker in U.S. history, Hakeem Jeffries. But that, there's a lot to be done between now and then to make that happen. Now, the first 2 years I was in Congress was some of the most productive years in U.S. history. We passed 5 pieces of historic legislation: the Inflation Reduction Act, the Infrastructure Bill, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the CHIPS and Science Act, and the American Rescue Plan. These pieces of legislation focus on everything from physical infrastructure to capping insulin costs at $35 a month for seniors, which is a major win for the first couple of years, and so many other programs in between. What is lacking and what we need to do at a local level, we need to build the infrastructure and get the infrastructure in place so we could go after the grants that are available with these pieces of legislation. Does that make sense? So we passed the legislation, we appropriated resources, but we're not giving those resources directly to communities as we should. The American Rescue Plan did that. The American Rescue Plan gave resources directly to New York City, directly to the Bronx, directly to school districts, but the other bills that I mentioned do not. So for example, if you live in a home or even in a building and you want to transition from fossil fuel energy to clean, electric, renewable energy. You need to go through a process of doing that. Part of that process involves grant money that's available via the federal government through the state. There's a lot of red tape related with that. So you should be, everyone here and all of your neighbors and family and friends should be in touch with our office so that we can help you to engage in this grant, tax abatement, tax break process, because it's very complicated, way too complicated, but that's a major part of my work right now. How do we build the local infrastructure to go after the big grants for small businesses, worker cooperatives, things like that? And how are we helping day-to-day individuals with smaller aspects of what they may need, whether it relates to clean energy, the IRS, or something like that? Make sense? Okay, I'll take a couple of questions just in case anyone has any follow-up questions. Now, I got you in a second. One other thing I want to mention, a few pieces of legislation that my office is personally working on. Many of you may not know, my background is education. So prior to running for Congress in 2020, I worked in New York City Department of Education for 20 years. I was an elementary school teacher, a high school dean of students, and a middle school principal, not too far from here, Cornerstone Academy for Social Action. I was principal there for 10 and a half years. I sit on the Education and Workforce Committee and the Science, Space, and Tech Committee. So a lot of my legislation falls under these two committees. One major piece of legislation that needs your support in helping us push is something called the Green New Deal for public schools. Our public schools are physically falling apart. They're 100 years old. And the curriculum is also 100 years old. We need to make sure our kids are prepared for a 21st century economy that we live in. It's not just technology and social media, it's artificial intelligence and many other things that we haven't even comprehended yet. We need to make sure our kids are prepared for that. At the same time, we need to create thousands of jobs in our community. So when we talk about workforce development, economic development, this bill is something that invests in that. The investment is $1 trillion over 10 years to make sure we properly appropriate the money for the Green New Deal for public schools. Now, your first reaction is how we pay for that. Where are we going to get $1 trillion? Now, I ain't got $1 trillion and you ain't got $1 trillion, but the United States government has $1 trillion. Trust me. Let me tell you how I know. We spend almost $900 billion a year on war. $900 billion a year on war, which is the #1 employer in our country. You know what the second employer in our country is? Jails and prisons. So we could spend on war, we could spend on jails and prisons, we could spend on education, and we could spend on childcare, and we could spend on pre-K, and we could spend on paid leave, and we could spend to make sure everybody has a job. Right now, we see job growth happening every month, but people are still underemployed. They can't afford their housing, they can't afford their transportation, they can't afford basic necessities, utilities, out of control. So another bill I want to mention related to that we're introducing, something called the Ending Corporate Greed Act. Ending Corporate Greed Act. And that connects with another bill we have called the Babies Over Billionaires Act. Because here's the deal. Corporations are not contributing enough. The wealthy do not contribute their fair share. There are wealthy people who pay a lower tax burden than you in this room. That's unacceptable. So all we're saying is make sure the wealthy pay their fair share, make sure corporations pay their fair share, reinvest that money in our communities that have been left behind, and build the economy from the ground up. Last thing, since I've been in Congress, we've brought well over $1 billion into our district. And we focused on areas like healthcare, affordable housing, education, mental health, and other very important areas. As a matter of fact, a couple million of those dollars are going to be invested not too far from here for a new Bronx Health Community Center that we're going to be building in Northeast Bronx. We were able to give them over $2 million for that project. And the reason why we invest in healthcare, the reason why we invest in education, the reason why we invest in childcare, because all the public safety issues we're dealing with, it starts in those areas. It's not just about more cops. It's about dealing with the root causes of harm in our communities. The root causes are education, mental health, substance abuse. Those are the root causes. So not only are we dealing with the issue of public safety, we're dealing with the issue of economic development and growth. And so those are some of the things we're working on. Really important for you to remain in touch with our office. Ashley Torres, my district director, is here. She's incredible. And, any questions you have, I'll take whatever questions. you have.
Yes,
Here
I
we
have a
got one
quick,
here.
I have a quick question.
Oh, yeah, please, you go
Yes.
first. Yes.
With climate change, we're seeing that in our district, the infrastructure can't sustain stormwaters, and there's a lot of issues with flooding.
Yeah.
Many of us are homeowners. And for a minute, we've been talking about like we need funding to sustain or like rehab the current infrastructure. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, so Green New Deal for Public Schools deals with this somewhat. The new infrastructure bill deals with this somewhat, and the Inflation Reduction Act deals with this somewhat. When I talked about building the local infrastructure, it's very important for you to continuously engage my colleagues at the state level to make sure our governor is moving that money accordingly so that our communities benefit from the money that came in through those bills. Also, the money that came in through those bills isn't enough to actually deal with the infrastructure challenges. We need more of it. So that work is going to continue at the federal level. But yes, the money has been coming in. It's been coming online. Please engage Senator Bailey, Assemblyman Leader Hasty. They are on top of this as well, because that money is going to start coming online. It's going to start benefiting this area of the Bronx, of course, because the speaker is from here. On the Westchester side, Mamaroneck is an area in my district that is overwhelmed with flooding every time it rains. And we were able to get them $88 million to deal with some of their infrastructure, which, believe it or not, actually helps the infrastructure overall. So when you help one area, it helps everyone else. The problem is because we have a dysfunctional government federally right now, some of that money is taking a little bit longer to come online. What we could follow up on is we've had the Army Corps of Engineers come to my district a couple of times on the Westchester side. We got to do a Bronx tour as well, so we could get an understanding of what the flooding issues are here, and then the Army Corps can begin to identify areas they want to focus on when the money does come online. But the money has been allocated to the state. It's going to be coming online. We're consistently working with the state on this issue, but we got to bring the Army Corps out. So let's follow up on what that looks like. Well, Ashley, yep. Yeah, we have them come. I just met with them recently where they're looking for new projects. So they'll be coming in shortly.
I know Luke was next and that Mr. Hall.
It seems like every year we have these threats in local politics to cut funding for our libraries, for our schools, for our parks. Wakefield doesn't have equitable access to parks like a lot of other communities in the city do. Is there anything that you can do to help direct funding to creating new parks, sustaining current parks, especially when we're relying on a lot of volunteer labor for these types of critical things?
Yes. So every year there is a process called community project funding that our office goes through with the community to identify specific projects that they want to have invested in. So something like parks or some kind of infrastructure project like that could be a part of that conversation. So that's another follow-up with Ashley, where right now we're beginning that process. Let's have that conversation. Let's identify a potential project. Pretty much you write a proposal, let us know the cost and all the parameters of it, and we'll figure out how to get it funded at the federal level. Also, I want to say, do not let local elected officials off the hook. And I don't mean Bailey Hasty and Raleigh, I mean Mayor of New York City. There is money available to do these things. It's all about priorities. And I mean, how frustrated am I and we all should be when you think about every year of my life, it seems like they're talking about cutting education funding, cutting libraries, every year I've been alive. I'm 47 years old. Why? Especially when we just recently sent historic levels of funding to New York City. We just did that. So as a former educator, to see this, it's just like, what's going on? So let's continue, because I know a lot of people locally pressure the mayor to stop those cuts. Please, we all should do the same thing. But yes, at a federal level, we can be helpful because we brought in, you know, like I mentioned, the Bronx Health Community Center. That was one project we worked on. Another one is a program called Every Child and Family Known, where we help children living in shelters in the Bronx make sure they have their basic needs met at a proactive level. We got $2 million for that program. So yes, there is federal money available for that stuff.
Congressman Hasty, first of all, I just want you to know that residents in Gun Hill, they miss you.
And I miss y'all too.
All right, you're no longer our congressman, but we still have love for you.
Appreciate it.
My first question, and I only gonna have two short ones, but the AMI with regards to this particular area, this area's AMI is so high, but it all goes into Westchester. What could be done so that we can redefine the title of affordable housing?
Yeah. What is the AMI for this area?
I don't have no idea. It's so high that a studio apartment on 215th Street between Holland Avenue and White Plains Road would be $73,000.
Yeah.
And it's horrible.
Yeah, we've been lobbying HUD because HUD helps define what regional AMI is. So we've been lobbying HUD to change that. We haven't gotten very far yet, but we're going to continue to do that. We've also been engaged in the White House to do a lot more around rent stabilization, rent control, and making sure like people aren't unjustly evicted from their homes. The reason why we did that is because we believe housing is a human right, first of all, if we're talking about the issue of housing. And then secondly, anyone who receives federal dollars should be doing more as it relates to stabilization of rent. And so that's one issue we've pushed the Biden administration on. They so far have created a renters bill of rights, but in terms of real policy and real teeth, haven't gone far enough yet. But we have been lobbying HUD, and it would be helpful for all of you to lobby HUD and lobby my colleagues on the Senate side as well on this issue, because it's a big problem.
Okay. My next question, I see you said something about the Green New Deal for public schools. What about the Green New Deal for public housing?
Yeah, I just introduced that last week.
You did. Okay.
Well, not me. I'm a co-sponsor. It's AOC's bill. We introduced it just last week.
All right, because I saw where she was pushing
Yeah,
it
yeah.
to a degree, and that had been something that had been mentioned previously.
Yeah. I mean, when we first met and we did
Exactly.
the tour of Gun Hill houses,
Exactly.
we were talking about this. That's when I thought I was going to keep Gun Hill, and they took it from us.
But that's okay. But still,
Yeah.
that Green New Deal needs to be in the fold in the best interest of public housing per se, and HUD could verify that, and maybe they can get their act together because the secretary left.
Well, this goes back to what I said at the very beginning. We need the right leadership in Congress. Right now, we don't. I believe under Hakeem Jeffries' leadership, a lot of this stuff is going to start moving forward. Right now, you have some of us who believe housing is a human right, and some of us who know that the climate catastrophe is real and killing people every day, every year. And then you have others who look at housing as, something that's all about profit. And so they keep housing stock very low and keep the cost of housing very high. And they don't care if people have to move. They don't care if people have to die. They've neglected the public housing stock, as we know, for 70 years. They meaning the market. And now you got Wall Street involved in buying housing. And so this Green New Deal for public housing that we introduced a couple of weeks ago is a response to that. There's also a Green New Deal for cities that Cori Bush introduced. That's a response to this as well, because it's not just public housing, it's all buildings that we're trying to greenify, if that's the word. Last thing I'll say on that is, at the state level, there's a huge bill that recently passed, the Building Public BPRA, Building Public Renewables Act, that passed at the state level recently, which is all about transitioning to everything green. And so I'll get you some more information on that. We was helpful in making that pass, but that's part of this transition conversation we're talking about. Housing's included in that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ariel, you're next.
Hello, good evening. How are you?
Good.
to your segment about the legislation that you guys are looking into, one comment of that going into my questions is that, of course, like we all know that there's so much money in the government that they want to spend on what they want to spend on. It's like we have the money, we just don't have the money for you or for what, the things that we want. My question is going into how are you reintroducing this to them to show that this is something that communities need. And the reason why I ask that is because we have a corporation savior sometimes in some communities where either they're building big buildings or it's something that a corporation is going to come in to save. And a lot of times we experience small businesses and people not being able to sustain that. And that goes into AMI, that goes into housing, that goes into education, and that also goes into jobs. So a lot of times, it's like, oh, we're going to build a building. Maybe the Bronx community, maybe we want more houses. And the buildings that they're building, they're thin walls, they're cheap infrastructure, and their boxes, they're very small. And it's kind of going into this thing in the community of like, we'll just build the building. And then unfortunately, the people in those residents, they're unable to afford it because of the high AMI. Again, corporation coming in. Again, talk about the education because you need the schools to, have all the influx of people. So I just want to know, how does that legislation come in to tell the government that we would like this money for us? Because I feel like they kind of know that in a sense. They just want to spend the money on what they want to spend their money on.
Correct. And a lot of what you just described needs to happen at the local level, like really organizing and pushing the mayor and getting the right mayor into office who is going to do right by the people and not by developers, not by corporations. This is one of the reasons why one of our biggest fights in Congress is to get big money out of politics. Because right now, because big money's in politics, big money controls politics. A lot of big money comes from corporations and developers and the wealthy. So they come to a city and they'll negotiate with the mayor directly, come up with some kind of sweet deal. And next thing you know, we got this development going up and we're displacing people and completely destroying their quality of life. So organizing locally, particularly with the mayor and whatever offices deal with these issues, is really critical. At the federal level, we're trying to shift the consciousness. So right now you have the leadership in place. They keep talking about the deficit, the deficit, the deficit, the deficit. Now, this deficit has been built over time. All of the senseless wars we've been in forever contributed to the deficit, but they don't care about that. So they keep talking about deficit, deficit, deficit. What we also talk about is revenue, and what we talk about is the health of the economy. So when you invest in affordable housing, when you invest in childcare, when you invest in education, those things yield tremendous dividends on the back end for the economy, not just for the individuals or the individual families, for everybody. When you invest in every dollar invested in childcare, studies show yields $14 on the back end. If you just want to talk numbers, when you add quality of life to that, it brings down incarceration costs. Because guess what? Those who have pre-K experiences are less likely to go to jail and more likely to do better in school. So it brings down jail costs and it brings down healthcare costs. So what we're trying to do is shift the national consciousness to help people understand when you invest in working people and when you invest in vulnerable communities, it's better for the economy from an economic standpoint, from a healthcare standpoint, and from a public safety standpoint. The challenge is a lot of people in Congress are racist. And they are there to maintain a caste system that has certain people at the top and everyone beneath them. And that's why, as you all know, elections are super important to get the right people into those positions so we can have the right conversations and pass the right pieces of legislation. I mean, the first year I got there, I couldn't believe that the federal minimum wage was still $7.25 an hour. And when we tried to raise it to $15 an hour, we couldn't do it. Think about that. We couldn't raise the federal minimum wage $15,000 because it stopped from by Republicans and some Democrats. So it's a big fight. But that's what we're trying to do at the federal level, just shift the consciousness. At a local level, it's just about pressure and lobbying and getting the right people into the right positions. And I don't know if we have that now.
Congressman, real briefly.
Wayne?
Yes, Congressman, real briefly. We gave you guys the presidency. Sorry. It's not on? It's on. We came out 4 years ago, gave you guys the presidency. We gave you guys Congress. We expected a little more than what we've gotten in the last 4 years. Not blaming it solely on you. Realize there's 500 people there that we're dealing with, and you have 2 houses, and you have an executive body. We voted in fear the last time when we voted because we were told Trump is the devil. We expected more from the Democrats, who we have been aligned with for the last 60 years. I'm not quite sure like Jeffries, like Richie Torres, AOC operator. I'm still riding with you.
Thanks.
But I am not seeing what we as a people in this community, the investment that we've put in, the time that we have taken, we're not seeing it. Housing mentioned there. Prices of housing through the roof, can't afford it. Shelters, they're not building houses, they're building shelters. Why? Not permanent housing. No, they're building shelters instead of building permanent housing. I'm not quite sure what you can do on the level that you are. That's probably a local level that we have to deal with. Still a challenge. But this state is what? Still primarily democratic. And we're not seeing the things that we should be seeing.
Yeah.
So why in the world? This is a word of caution. The election is in November. And if people don't start taking things a little more seriously in Congress, they're going to find that people are going to sit at home instead of voting because we are not seeing the investment that we put in every 4 years. No return on it. We're not seeing it, especially in our community.
Yeah.
So I just give you, this is not even for you to respond to. It's just a word of caution to share with your friends. And I have a major problem with Richie Torres. Clearly he's not here. I haven't seen him in quite some time. And we're talking about taking money from private people. I see where his money's coming from. I see where his allegiance is. I look at where the PAC money's coming from. And it's not coming, he's not playing ball with us. And we're the ones who are voting.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying, mind these folks. Yeah.
Yeah.
The check is due.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. No, I'm aware. I'm aware of everything you just said. And there's a couple of things I just want to say to that. Number one, when I talk about big money in politics, this is what I'm referring to. Because when you have big money in politics, you have politicians responding to big money and not to people. And so that's why we haven't seen enough in the areas we need. Housing, many other areas. There's price gouging happening from corporations all across the country. We in Congress haven't done enough to help hold the private sector and corporations accountable for that. We're in bed with them in a lot of ways. And so what you're saying is absolutely true. It's why I fight the way I fight for the things I fight for, because I try to work in conjunction with the people as we govern for the people. But you're right. My hope is, as people like me continue to run and fight and win, that shifts how we govern, number one. But then number two, again, there are 5 pieces of historic legislation that we did pass that are coming online. Our work at the local level is going to be, how do we make sure that money comes to us? That's the work. How's that money go to more parks, affordable housing, all the areas we're talking about. It's on us locally to do that. So anyone who has the chops to be a part of helping to build that infrastructure and the time, we're game, because that's what we're doing as well. Yes, and then.
Okay, Congressman Bowman.
Yes, ma'am.
We worked together when he was a principal, so I'm going to speak education to it. The gentleman back made some very, very interesting points. And you being here tonight and our local elected officials, well, I haven't seen them out other than representative. Me personally, and the things that I do in the community and the people that comes together, we would love to see prior to November to have more elected officials locally and broadly to come out and answer some questions that need to be answered. We do two things. We do the petitions. We go to early voting, which is happening now. And then we go to November, the general election. But prior to
Well,
that,
hold on. For Congress, there's a primary June 25th. Don't forget that.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But prior to that, we know they have a lot of scheduling. They have a lot of places to go, and they have their job as senator and congressman and et cetera. But I would love, and I know a lot of others too, not saying it, to sit down and have this kind of open conversation with our local elected officials, as well as our federal, our state. There's a lot of you guys, and most of you are guides, except for a couple of ladies, which I'm not, I can see more female, okay? It's a woman's world too, being that it's Women's History Month. But technically what he's made, the statement that he made back there, the gentleman, the board member, I piggyback on him.
Yeah.
We have judges that are on the petition that we haven't met, but yet we did a petition signing. I know two of them, but we should be able to judge whether we want to vote for them or not prior to being on the paperwork. I thank you.
Yeah. No, it's a great point. Now, let me say this. Our political system, our government, is designed to operate a certain way. It's operating as it has been designed to operate. In order to change that, we have to force it to change. I would like to think I'm one example of that. I was a middle school principal at a very good school, well-respected, well-regarded, 10 and a half years in the community. I have a doctorate degree in education leadership. One day I got a crazy idea that I'm going to run for Congress. And the reason why I did that is because I didn't feel my kids and families were getting enough from the entire system. And the person who was there before me was there a very long time, and in my opinion, wasn't having these kind of conversations. So I ran, and I won. No one thought that was going to happen. And now I'm in Congress having new conversations. And what's happening? The system is pushing back because they don't want to talk about certain things. But that's okay. My point is, we have to change the system to work for the people. And the question is, how do we do that? How do we do it? Who's doing what? How are we building that infrastructure? Yes, in the back. I don't know if you have a mic. Oh, sorry.
Hi, my name is Isonia. You can call me E. I'm from the Environmental Committee here in the Bronx.
real quick question, since we are talking about a very sensitive issue. We want to do the right thing. We know that the system is broken and by default, we cannot follow within it. What are you going to do to protect those that go against it and may not have a platform as yours that can keep them still employed?
Hold
That's
on.
basically the question.
Thank you, Tony. Hold on. I'm getting very uncomfortable with this conversation. And it's not because of you, Congressman. This is a community board. We don't do politics here. This is not a political forum. He's not here to answer questions about his race. He's here to talk about what he's doing for the district, and that is it. You know, we're getting into we're talking about petitions and judges and what our local elected officials, we have local elected officials who have their representatives here, they can speak for themselves. So again, I mean no disrespect, Congressman, but this is not a campaign. This is not, this is a community board. You're here to answer questions about what's happening in the district, what you're doing and your office is doing to help our constituents. And once you've said your piece, you can go. I know you're trying to answer our constituents' questions, but this is not the place for that.
It's probably my fault. I think I brought it up. I'm sorry. My bad. My fault. But definitely follow up with me offline and I'll talk to you about whatever you want to talk about. Thank y'all very much. Good to see you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming. Okay, Alina, and then we'll wrap up this section.
Hi, everyone. Yes, Happy Women's Month. I just wanted to share that the mayor actually had, unfortunately had to attend the wake of the officer that was murdered. And I wanted to make sure we reminded everyone that in the beginning of the mayor's campaign, he was asking for support to get bail reform. So again, he's asking everyone to please speak to your electeds, your other electeds, and ask them what could be done to get change to change around the recidivism. So that's one part. Also, I wanted to let you know that the NST application process is open. So we're encouraging everyone to please fill out the application so that you can submit your concerns. The concerns will be, if we get some of the same concerns from as many people in the community, then multiple agencies will work together to address those concerns. I always mention that the mayor has the pillar rewards that he would love to be able to provide. I'm asking everyone to please nominate our amazing pillars in the community so that they can get an award on behalf of the mayor, because he understands that it does take a village. I'm sorry, I'm Alina Dow. I'm the Bronx Borough Director for the mayor's community affairs. And there was so much going on that I was listening to while online. I do apologize that I'm not there today. Other than that, I did also want to let you know that I have been working with multiple agencies, one to address we haven't forgotten, because the mayor has been diligent about trying to find more solutions to the car washes that are on Webster Avenue, Gun Hill and White Plains, Gun Hill into 33rd, as well as some of the other the illegal trucks. And I know that's a little bit up further from your community, but there's also now we see that there's an influx of boats that are being parked. So I would encourage you please to call 311 after you put that complaint in and you notice that it hasn't been taken care of. So please send me an email with that complaint number so that I can talk directly to any of the agencies. My number, if you want to take down my cell phone number, is area code 914-446-8393. And my email is A for Alina, D as in David, O-W, E as in Edward, at cityhall.nyc.gov. And as always, I'm available for everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alina. Next up, Federice.
Hi, everyone. I am sorry I'm virtual, but I will be there the next time. It was raining, so I had to head home. But I wanted to do my brief updates for the office for Councilmember Eric Dinowitz. I know we've had a lengthy discussion, a very riveting discussion, but I will keep it brief. So Parks Department came over to the office on Thursday, the 21st. They went over their park special events permit applications. They went over their capital funding needs and different things that they were looking forward to in the future, fiscally for parks, and then also in terms of some new developments that they're working on. So I will keep a close eye out just to see if there's anything for the Wakefield community, just so that Wakefield can have something to look forward to for the Parks Department as far as beautification or maybe some new developments. We've also been working, piggybacking off of Miss Dow, with the illegal car washes. I've been talking to different precincts, some of which are on Gun Hill in the 231st, 234th area, about the illegal car washes and just getting those kind of looked at. And so I've had a lengthy communication with the precinct about that, and they are addressing it. Then last but not least, we also had Crystal over at the Wakefield Library today. We will also be back in about 2 weeks' time, maybe 3 weeks' time. We're going through some changes, so Julio might be there the next time you pop in, but feel free to stop by. We also did receive an email about citizenship fees increasing. So that is something that MMCC can help with. If you would like a referral or more information about MMCC, please give a call to the office or stop by. I'm going to give the information for the office shortly. There's a shredding event coming up. We don't have a tentative date yet to give out, but as soon as we get one, we will be sure to disperse it at the community board meetings. Also, you can sign up for our newsletter if you want to do that ahead of time. For the citizenship, there's an attorney for the first and third Mondays of every month. So if you'd like, you can call the office and we'll give out that info to you. We also had West Bronx Housing there on the 19th, and they'll be back on the 26th, and then of April. And so we also are having a fishing event in June. And if you'd like more information about that, please let me know. But it's going to be June 8th, and it's going to be 3 months. It is a little bit of ways away. It's at Van Cortlandt, but I really think that the Wakefield community, if you like to fish, it'd be great to have you there. To stop by, please call or visit the office for more information. My email address is in the header where my name is, but I'll give it to you. It's flatchman, LATCHMAN, at council.nyc.gov. You can visit the office. I'll be there. Love to see you guys there at 277 West 231st Street. So 277 West 231 Street. The phone number to the office is 718-549-7300. And if you need anything at all about taxes, tax preparation links, or more information, please give us a call or email. And that's it for my updates. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. And that concludes our section of the elected official reports. Moving right along, we do have a packed agenda. I thank you for your patience. I don't know if you all had a chance to read my report last month. We didn't meet a quorum, so we couldn't really discuss it. I do want to continue to at least start to have a discussion of the role of a city planner. And we do have a liaison, Brenna, who's here to kind of talk to us about her role as our liaison, and then kind of like how do we unlock all these potentials for our district. And so Brenna, I'll give you the floor.
Great, thank you so much. And thank you for inviting me to this meeting. And can everyone hear me? Am I going through okay?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I had a company meeting before and someone was like, there's a clicking sound. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry about that.
No, you're good. Thank you, Brenna.
Hi, thank you so much for the intro, Beatrice. Beatrice, I'm sorry. So we spoke earlier in the week yesterday about the contribution, how the community board can use DCP and look to us as a resource. So I can just give some quick background on myself. I can also share some resources that we maintain that are publicly available and could also be helpful for any land use and zoning questions you have. I was speaking to my director earlier today, and he was telling me that he had done a an overview on zoning earlier, late last year with the board. And I know that you have a couple new members, so definitely happy to revisit that later this year and to give some more background and help with questions that you have. So a little bit of background on me. I am the community board liaison to Bronx Community Board 12 and Bronx Community Board 1. I'm a Bronx native, so I'm really happy to be doing this work. I've had experience in the private sector, the public sector is what I'm back in, and then also in the nonprofit sector at Department of City Planning. I am a borough planner, so I help oversee projects that happen within, those community districts and community boards, working with the applicants to make sure that they actually like communicate with the community boards that the projects are happening in. When I spoke with Beatrice, Beatrice yesterday, I'm so sorry to keep messing up your name. You had spoken about like interest in just seeing how the community board can, use the Department of City Planning for any zoning help that you have or help with land use. And I know that there a lot of times like these issues can be like really like high level or just like not, there's like a lot of like intricacies to it. So absolutely like help. Happy to come to community board meetings that you want myself or my director, Paul Phillips, to come to. I also still work with the former community board liaisons that y'all had, Nathan Heffron. Still work with him. He's fine. He's doing great. He's with other community boards. But yeah, so that's a little bit about what myself for Department of City Planning. Like I said, I work with different applicants, mostly like development. That's what's considered discretionary. So like a lot of development that happens in New York City is generally allowed, but for the stuff that isn't, that you need oversight with, or that you need to go to other overarching agencies with, we are primarily the one, Department of City Planning. I can also share some links in the chat. I know that it's a packed agenda and I know that you have a really robust discussion, so I don't want to take up like too much of your time. So those were just like some of the things that I wanted to mention. The resources that we have that are really helpful. One is called SAP, so CAP, and it's to check up on the progress of projects that are happening all throughout New York City. You can look at it by a community district. So there are a couple happening in Community District 12, which falls within Community Board 12. You can look at all the ones, like if you want to look at ones in New York City, not New York City, in the Bronx. You can look at Manhattan, Queens, Staten Island, and Brooklyn. And then another one is called ZOLA, and it's a zoning and land use map, and it's how you can look at what zoning exists in your district or throughout New York City, what land use happens, and it also has links to publicly available legal documents, as well as some stuff from Department of Finance and Department of Buildings. So happy to take any questions, but also very cognizant of your agenda. So please let me know how much you want me to go into depth. Thank you.
Thank you, Brent. I think it's important for the board members to get to know you and for us to develop a relationship. I just have one question, and maybe our board members do too. What is the advantage of community boards working with city planners? What are some of the benefits?
So some of the benefits are just being, of course, like more aware of like maybe development that's happening in your borough. I know that's one of the things that you mentioned you were very interested in. And also, like I mentioned, in terms of like zoning and land use, sometimes those can be like very intricate topics, and they're not necessarily very intuitive. So even I've been at Department of City Planning a little bit less than a year. So I still rely on people at the agency a lot to, tell me what's the difference between like an RDA and an R7D and R7A. So just, knowing those differences, and also just like, knowing maybe like the history that's happened, and just being able to have access to that information, and also just like being able to know where it is, because sometimes a lot of this stuff like is available, but it's just that, it's not necessarily as well advertised. So we do have a zoning help desk. So a lot of times we get like really particular questions like, oh, like what type of signage is allowed, or, oh, like what's these like very intricate issues that maybe people can't easily research online. So we do help troubleshoot those.
Great. We have some questions. Kritika?
Sure.
My name is Kartika. I had a question. Would your support also help in like land preservation or advocating for like preservation of parks, or understanding like kind of like cultural assets that some of these places could have for the community?
Absolutely. I don't think we do necessarily advocacy straight up, but definitely being able to give you resources so that you know like what's in your neighborhood. So part of what I had mentioned, the Service ZOLA stands for Zoning Land Use Map. We have a feature that can show you like different historical districts as well as landmarks, and then it differentiates between like internal landmarks or external landmarks, or if it's like a landmark for a whole building. So just being able to like know those different things that are in your neighborhood. And also like, you know, there is a Landmarks Preservation Commission. So occasionally like they do send us projects and we, you know, it's like they've said, okay, we like want this landmarked, and there's been like a public movement to do that. And then we follow through to make sure that that happens. Does that answer your question?
Yep, thank you.
No problem.
Does anyone else have any questions? No, okay. My last question for you was, I know when we were talking, there are some limitations, like we can, you know, reach out to you for support for existing projects. If we had a new vision or a new project in mind, I think my understanding was that you wouldn't really work with us on that or be able to extensively support us with that.
So yes, I was actually talking with people in my office, and one of them did tell me like it sounds like what you want is maybe called a 197A plan. Community boards have done them in the past, and you know it's like it can be for like cataloging what you currently have, or like you know what a neighborhood could look like. I can send you resources. You know, just because I was like, I wanted to be here, like at least virtually, but yeah, I can send some resources. So they've been able to do some things like those, and those, some of them are like cataloged, and it does along the lines of what you're talking about. And I do know that some community boards, there are like fellowship programs that community boards do have where they're able to tap into some of the grad schools that are in the area. There are about five planning grad schools in the area that I think participate in some of those fellowship programs. So they do get some students that are doing planning and can help you craft some of that information. I know there's also a nonprofit that has programs like that, and I can again like send some of that information to you as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, and thanks for making me part of such a cool meeting. So
Yes,
I'll
we'll
mute
invite you
myself and-
back.
Yes,
Thank you.
I'll take myself off camera and mute myself. Bye.
Okay. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that we get to know her and that, you know, questions come up. There's a lot happening in all over New York City with the city of Yes. So it is important that we get familiar with certain things. And so we know that we can tap into her as one of our resources. Moving on, that was really my report and part of what I wanted to share. George, District Manager's report.
Thank you. I'm going to read this real quick. I know I promised not to read these, but we actually had a very busy month. Good evening, board members, and happy Thursday. I hope you are all well. I want to discuss 3 issues that came before the community board this last month. Some of you may have already been, some of these may have already been mentioned. They weren't, so I'm actually good. So I apologize for the repetition. The first issue is Wakefield Village. The second issue is the Metro North Railroad Woodlawn Station, and finally 3240 Grace Avenue. Wakefield Village is a massive development that will require the community board to go through the Uniform Land Use Review process, or ULURP for short. I wrote in my report last month, this project has been before the community board since 2018. It will require the building of a platform/podium over an existing structure for approximately 1,100 apartments and up to 617 parking spaces. This site is just off the East 241st Street Bridge in Wakefield. I will continue to raise this issue because the development team that believes that the city planning will bring this project for certification before the end of this year. Once the project is certified, the community board, us, will have to act quickly to hold a committee meeting, a public meeting, a general full board meeting to vote on this project. Generally speaking, we get 60 days to do all this. The size of this project makes it interesting and noticeable. If you have any questions about this project, please ask your questions now so that it can be addressed in any subsequent presentations. I believe our March land use meeting went very well. In that vein, Ursula and I are working on putting together another training session on housing and the importance of building more housing. Once we figure out a date with HPD, we will let the board know. Secondly, I received an email this past Monday regarding the Woodlawn Station on the Metro North Railroad line. The email pointed out that the Woodlawn Station is not handicap accessible. We shared Assemblymember Jeff Dinowitz's newsletter today with our list that speaks to the effort that he has made to get the MTA to address this inequity. I'm raising this issue because I do not like the nature in which the email came to us. It appears that the email was sent as part of a much larger campaign because we are in the middle of silly season right now. I do not mean to disparage elections or those who run for office. Additionally, I am not naive. I understand that this happens every day, but it is my hope to keep the community board free from the silliness of heated, divisive public campaigns. This building and this office are not a forum for political discourse. I responded to the complaint by pointing out that the MTA is a state-run agency, and despite the board members appointed by the mayor of the city of New York, they do not constitute the majority of MTA board members. Additionally, our district needs statement do not reflect the needs of state-run facilities or agencies. The author of the email was fully aware of this, yet chose to send this email to others in the community. This led to a deep misunderstanding and misinformation campaign by the author to conflate the community board's role as having any oversight over the MTA. We received several emails from others in the Woodlawn community using the same language as the original email, asking the community board to intervene in making the Woodlawn Station handicap accessible. This was divisive to the community. This was a disservice to the community because it confuses our constituents who are already dealing with their daily lives. The assembly member had addressed this issue, and the accessibility improvements are included in the MTA's capital budget. It is going to happen. Finally, I wanted to update everyone on 3240 Grace. Community Board 12 had several residents come before the community board to ask about what was happening at this site. So much so that we wrote a letter asking the Department of Homeless Services what was happening at this site. The letter was sent February 29th, 2024. The project has been paused. This is the language that DHS used. A collective thank you should be given to our elected representatives for speaking with one voice and letting DHS know that this site was not an acceptable or suitable location for a shelter of any kind. Additionally, congratulations should be given to the residents of the area who came together to demand accountability from DHS and our elected officials. I would like to thank one of our board members, Patricia Boswell, who called several times of the day to keep us informed of what was going on. So thank you, Patricia. It should be noted that when Community Board began reaching out to DHS, the agency maintained that they were not aware of anything with the site. They had no interaction with the landlord and did not know what was going on. They maintained this posture even after they were confronted with the Department of Building Certificate of Occupancy job filing that showed that the landlord was building this shelter location with the support of DHS. I've never seen that before in my life. I've worked for Buildings Department before I came here. Never seen any filings on Buildings Department website that actually said, this project is supported by DHS. Where was I? When I received the call from DHS last week, the posture had changed. They said that the project was paused and that they would be reaching out to the provider to let them know that DHS was pausing the plans. DHS knew all along what was happening at this site, and I think it's not right that they were not forthright with the community about their intentions. Secondly, two things were stated in the email from the commissioner. The first thing is that the project is paused, and that is not exactly a declarative statement. Secondly, the commissioner stated that they were looking to add more shelters to our area. I want to state that I'm appreciative to the commissioner because she has been engaging with us, which is different. This is a new thing. This is a new development, so I'm actually surprised by it. So as a result of that engagement, I'm working with the Borough President's Office to put something together on DHS's planning process. I will share the details once everything is ironed out. I say all this because, again, I'm only as good as the information that I get from the city representatives. We reached out to DHS. Patricia can tell you that I like to be consistent. We kept telling them, hey, what's going on? They're doing construction, they're filing jobs. It's technical and I don't want to get into the hey because it's getting late. But it wasn't until we could actually see the filing for the certificate of occupancy, the Alt 1. They had to file a job with the buildings department to change the occupancy of the building. And when they did that, in their statement, they wrote the very last sentence, and it's visible to anybody. You can go to the building's website and look at it, that it was supported by DHS. That was their language that they used, which really changed. Like I said, I've never seen this. I worked in the buildings department. I'd never seen this before. And it raises the issue that DHS knew from the very beginning, and they actually had a provider, because the landlord is not getting paid, or is getting paid by the provider. The provider is a not-for-profit organization. So this is a community-based organization that's a not-for-profit, and they looked at this site and said, hey, we want to do this. As an example, we were here in 2019. In 2019, Black Vets for Social Justice was the provider, and they had looked at that site. And through the intervention of our elected officials, they were able to stop that development from going on. At the time, it was being eyed because we were going through COVID, and they were looking at that site as a separation site so that they could, I guess, put people there so that they could not be bunched up in one place. They relocated that facility when they stopped it to another location. I can't tell you where it is now because it's been occupied, but it's still in Community Board 12. And that is the fear that I have. We were able to pause it at 3240, but again, I don't know what pause means. Does that mean do we wait another 3 years or 4 years before they come back and say, because again, the landlord, whoever this person is spending, once again, we know because of Department of Buildings filings, they tell you how much they're spending on the job filing. It's $1.2 million to convert this building. And that's a lot of money if you're not going to spend, if you're not going to get that back. So I don't know what's going to happen. It is on pause. That is a victory. We should take that victory. It's a victory for everyone involved. And again, it's not possible without the intervention of our elected officials. But that's where we're at. The final thing that I'll say, as always, today marks my 3,161st day as your district manager, 8 years, 7 months, and 26 days of my tenure here. I'm grateful for each and every day at the board. Thank you for your patience, and good night.
Thanks, George. We look forward to you keeping us abreast of any new happenings. Okay, we're going to move on now to financial reports. Talene, do you have anything?
Yes, good evening. Just to say we are still at $2,660. And thank you everyone for your prayers and thoughts for my sister. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much. Okay, moving on to approval of board minutes. Want to make a motion to approve the board minutes for December, for January, and February.
Second.
Robert Link and Robert Hall, second.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on now to committee reports, environmental concerns. Are we voting on anything there? Go ahead. On the mic. On the microphone.
Okay, the committee met in February to agree on a slate of priorities for 2024, and 7 items were agreed by the committee. So I'll go through them very quickly. I can give anyone interested in a particular topic more detail. We're going to be addressing rat remediation, pest control, in May with Department of Health presenting. We're in discussions with the Parks Committee to work on a project for steering people to greener food options. We're going to keep track of when curbside composting is returning to the Bronx. We had a presentation on 5G towers this month. We're looking for more information on local law 97 to ensure that tenants are informed of the impacts. We're following congestion pricing developments, which it looks like it's going to come into effect in June, and stormwater management, monitoring agencies' efforts to improve stormwater management. So that's it. Any questions?
On anything? No. Okay. Okay, so next, executive committee. So we met in February. We discussed a few things. One is like board monthly reports, just so that our district manager, George, and Ursula kind of like inform us monthly of what are things like he just said now and things that we should know. If in previous meetings, for example, with transportation, we requested or we suggested for a study. I know in the past we have two. So just updates, things that have come across the board, committees, city agency responses. If they've been negligent and not responding, then we should know all that so that we can continue to push and advocate for our needs. The next thing was a preliminary budget process. I'm putting together a Google form where each of you can kind of like address what you feel the needs are. And then based on that, when the time comes, then we'll decide what our 3 top priorities are. And then for discussion, I thought it was important to have our city planner liaison here, Brenna, to kind of discuss possibilities, really how to unlock potentials, not just projects that are brought to our attention, but how do we develop our own vision? I know it's been done in the past. There are some limitations to what Brenna can do for us. So the discussion that I wanted to have was other boards have actually advocated for discretionary funding from their city council members so that we can then have our own kind of like funding to seek or retain our private city planner. So that is something that I would like to take a vote on now. The vote is really, if we're in agreement, for us to be able to connect with our elected officials, city council members, which would be Councilmember Riley, Councilmember Dinowitz, and request discretionary funding so that we have funding to seek a private city planner. What Brenna can do for us is limited. Yes.
I have a question. What is the city planner going to do for us?
Unlock potentials, not just the projects that they bring to us, but we may have a vision and they would help us with that.
So they would potentially help us draft a 197A proposal?
Right, if that's what we decided that we wanted to.
And the board members understand what a 197A proposal is. So maybe you should really speak about it, because as I've advised privately and now in this forum, a 197A plan may not necessarily be what you want. So just be mindful of that. Go ahead, Kartika.
Or like I asked her earlier, right? She would be the point person to kind of guide us into like what these different terms and things mean.
Right.
Like we don't know, we can't do the Google research on our own. If we have a specialist on board, they would be able to guide us in understanding that.
Correct. It's support. It doesn't mean that we're actually going to push for something. It's if we decide we have a vision, if we need to understand certain things, if it's beyond the scope of what Brenna can do with us, we would have somebody that would support our needs. We're not all experts, yes.
Is there any way we can, if we do hire somebody, try to find like a really good nonprofit? Like I know there's ANHD, the Association for Neighborhood Affordable Housing, or something like that.
The thing is, we would need funding. We don't have that, right? We have
Brenna that works with us and supports us. This is if we agree that we would like to inquire with our city council members if they even have discretionary funding that they can allot to us. It's not a guarantee. It's saying that we are in agreement that we would like to inquire and continue the discussion. We have a few questions. Brenna?
Yeah, no, I was listening to some of the discussion. I just muted myself and took myself off camera. So yeah, no, like George said, what you can do is like you can absolutely like discuss this like I think within the board and just like see exactly like what you want to like get out of somebody because you do have me here and funds like that could potentially be used for like other things. And I think maybe just getting everyone on the same page of like a 197 plan might be a good start. This is just me like, just putting that out there, like not trying to jump over anyone's feet, but it might just be a good place to start. Like just everyone having kind of like a baseline of what it could mean to have somebody like on staff. And, I don't necessarily know what the process is and like if you hire them for A, like can they do B, C? So those might just be like good things to like talk about like within just the board or like a particular committee. Like planning is generally like land use, so it might be tied more to like a certain committee or like housing. So those might be good things to think about. And absolutely Beatrice, I'm actually absolutely happy to, like have Paul, like if you want to have like another talk with, just like all three of us, like I can put him in the fold and
That
we
would
can
be
put something. Yeah, so we can do that. And I can, I think that might be a bit more helpful than I think,
Yes,
just,
when Paul
yeah.
presented to us, he, and I believe it was him that he shared that a
Mhm.
lot of times what the board sees or votes on or not is projects that come to us, but there is an opportunity for the board to actually come up with some ideas.
Yeah, no, definitely like for you to be more proactive because a lot of times I do have to say like when projects come to you, like they are more so formed than like what you're looking for because you're looking for it to be like more proactive. And if I'm remembering like the conversation right, it was more of just like, seeing like where the potential in like community board 12 boundaries are. And it's like, oh, like these sites are, potential for like this or like what could be like the best and highest use for these areas. So definitely like happy to have this conversation more now, but I did just like want to say that piece in terms of that because it might just be like maybe you want something a little different or just like investigate it, but absolutely like look into other things. And in terms of what Luke was talking about, there's ANHD. They do I think a fellowship with Morgan Stanley, like with the grad schools that I was speaking about, like every year. And then there's Hester Street, and I know that they've done programming with Bronx Community Board, not Bronx Community Boards, just community boards throughout New York City in general. So happy I can package all this in like an email and
Yes,
send it for
maybe
your perusal.
we'll have you come back to our land use committee so that we have more time to spend on this.
Absolutely, yeah, no. So absolutely, like take the time that you need, and just make the best decision for you. But yeah, I can package some of this stuff together, and also like happy to include Paul in on the conversation because I did tell him that I was like coming here tonight, so he did give me some pointers on what to discuss, and he also did tell me that like he spoke to you about like zoning. So maybe if you like, we can talk about that. Like we are, I will be coming back to the board in May and or June for City of Yes housing opportunity. So look out for me for that. But in the second half of the year, absolutely like happy to do like more trainings or just other things like with the board because just like I think having a baseline might be like really helpful in helping people figure out like what they want out of like if you're asking for like a particular position, it just might be a good baseline to have everyone just like, okay, we all are here instead of having someone who's like maybe a little bit below in terms of like understanding or in terms of knowledge, because then it's like sometimes, it's like it's 5-1 and then it's like, the one just gets put with the 5. So
thank you. Any more questions before? Yes.
She answered my question. I just wanted to make sure we were using the city resources before we started using discretionary funding for stuff like that.
Yes. Any other questions?
I just wanted to know, like, I saw the I understood the briefing summary of it. Is there like a con or something to it? Like, because I know that George said like, it may not be, because we have to look at everything. So I just wanted to have that basis. Or are we just going to do that in a different meeting and then come back?
We can bring this to the land use committee and continue the discussion there.
Okay.
This is again, in order for us to, there's a lot happening. I think that we need to see how do we even get even more resources for us to fully understand and envision. Again, what Brenna brings to us, or when we hear things, is projects that are coming to us oftentimes, and this was presented to us, we do as a board have an opportunity to come up with a vision. A city planner will help us with all of that.
Thank you so much for that.
I think it's just a wonderful idea if we can just have some discretionary funds there to do things. So if we can lobby our Congress, our local officials to provide us with some funds just to have it there so that we can say, as Ms. Cornell said, basically Cornell says, we need to have a vision for this board and not simply just come to meetings every day and basically rubber stamp stuff. So we need to start thinking about what we want for this community and the things that we want to get done. So I think having the discretionary funds that would allow us to do certain things would be great, would be helpful. I'm not saying it has to be a city planner, but we need to start things like that.
Right. So maybe we can table this. We'll have this at our executive committee or our land use, but this is a conversation that we need to have. Again, things are just coming to us, but as a board, we do have an opportunity to unlock these potentials. And I think we have that right energy to do that. So I do want us to really continue to have this conversation and not just push it to what we've been told. Okay, yes.
Just really quick, I just want to be clear. So are you rescinding that motion or?
Well, it seems like we need to continue the conversation, right? And so I don't want to rush it, but I do want to urge you all to really be mindful that, time is of essence. We go into recess and after June. And so if we do want to do this and we take a vote and then it gives us the opportunity to talk to our elected officials, it's budgetary time right now. So now would be the time to at least plug it in their ear, because then it would take time for them to even see if they have the funding to allocate. So it's not something that's going to happen overnight. So we can agree, hey, we're interested in continuing to have the conversation, and we could at the very least have a conversation with our elected officials.
Discretional funds only come out a certain time of the year. Mr.
Now.
Choi.
Now,
And it's only
now's
for
the
this-
time.
This is the time now to apply
Yes.
for it? I know they had a
Well, we
workshop
wouldn't
on it.
apply for it. We would ask our city council members if, we would say why and state our cause and then see if they have any allocations to give to this board. So I do think it's important that we have these conversations with them sooner rather than later. So does someone want to make a motion, or do you feel like we need more time? Right.
Hi, Paula. Just to confirm, you're just asking for us to move for a motion to ask the question of can we work with city planning about possibly getting discretionary funds?
Can we ask our elected officials for discretionary funding to then retain a private city planner?
You're a
I would be in support of that. I'm in an effort of expediency and having our voices heard, investing in our voice. I think it's a great
So do
idea.
you want to make a motion?
I would make a motion to ask our elected officials for discretionary funding for the retention of a planner to help us with our vision for the neighborhood.
What do you mean?
Like setting up a motion that like sets it up for a vote of like whether we would want to go to ask that.
Yes, that's what he
increase,
just said.
Or whether we wanted to go to a committee first to do the research. No.
No.
Oh.
And again, this is not guaranteed. If we take the vote, it's just to go have our conversation with the elected officials, which we can have here
So
as a group.
So just for clarity, because there's a motion on the Luke made a motion. So is there a second to that motion before there's another question? So I'm not clear. There's a second? Okay, just give me a name, please.
Wait, what's the motion?
Luke, do you want to repeat the motion?
The motion is for us to write a letter to our elected officials seeking, I thought I worded it well. Can you look at the recording?
Did you write it down?
Yeah. Okay. It's something to the effect of asking our elected officials for money to retain a planner to help us with our vision for the neighborhood.
For the district, yeah.
The
Right,
district.
with the word private, to retain a private city planner.
Yeah, it would be private. Luke Salagos. Oh,
And again, it doesn't mean we'll get it. It just means we're asking, right? Our inquiry.
So I know there's a motion, so I don't want to disrupt that. If there's a second and you want to take a vote, but I do want to, you mentioned that you
Yeah.
were tabling it and bringing it to exec.
Okay, so let's move on with that. Okay. So now we'll take a vote. Okay, so we already did the motion. It was second. Atonia, and now we can do a roll call and we'll go one by one and see who's with it and who's not. Did you have a question, I think earlier?
And the mic, Deborah.
I did have a question. The gentleman, and I'm sorry, I don't know the name on the end.
Wayne.
Spoke to not just solely voting for a city plan, but making the ask a more general ask. And so that we may be able to do other things. And so that just sort of didn't get addressed.
So you want to add, not just for city planner and for other in general?
I think that was a good idea.
Okay. So let's reword, yeah.
Have we researched how much a private planner costs and what discretionary fundings we're asking for?
Boards have acquired about 20,000, so 10 from each.
And so have we maximized the resources that the city already has before we ask for 20,000 discretionary funds?
Yes, because remember Brenna said that the city typically works with projects they bring to the table, right?
Typically, but they
don't
have,
have the resources, right? To help boards with new visions. It takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of research.
but the liaison that's here isn't that what she's involved in? The one that's.
She's our liaison. She's the one that said to me, projects, they help us and support us with projects that they bring, right? City of Yes stuff. If we as a board said we have a vision for something else.
Could I say something really quick?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so projects like that we bring in terms of like City of Yes is one, or like city wide text amendments. I know y'all have probably heard about the text amendment on casinos that's happening, I think, in Community District or Community Board 10 in the Bronx. And then also there are projects that we get that when I was talking about projects that happen, the stuff that's not as of right are generally bought by either private applicants or sometimes like fellow city agencies. So that's generally what we come to the boards with. So it can be like private or government, or those are generally the two buckets that these projects fall into. So it's not just it's not just government projects that we're bringing. Sometimes like Wakefield Village, I believe, I know Nate is the point person on that, but that's one of the projects that we come to a community board with, or that we are like the point person on prior to the applicant. So I hope that gives some clarity in terms of like projects. So I do just like want to make sure that y'all understand that like we have projects that we bring, but then we also do have projects that we are not necessarily like behind, like not that we're not supporting them, but that they're projects that private applicants or other applicants are bringing that we're presenting on or providing the community board with information on.
They are a resource that if we come with a project, we come with something, they can provide a resource for planners that are already certified to do this,
You
that the
can-
city's already paying for.
You should ask her. She's on.
She,
Brenna?
Yeah,
Right.
I'm still here. Sorry. I switched between camera on and camera off. So
no worries. So as a city resource, you
Mm-hmm.
guys have planners and people that are in this project field that the community board can utilize for potential projects? I just want to be clear on that.
yeah, so we analyze projects. So generally, like there are different stages of a project. So we do like what are called like informational interest meetings, and then after that, we have applicants submit what's called a pre-application statement, a PAS, and then we, either approve or disapprove the statement. And we, if we disprove it, we ask for additional materials. We approve it, we then go with the applicant, we meet them, like all different DCP divisions, we meet with the applicant, we talk about the project, we work to finalize actions, and then once we finalize actions, that's when we like move the project through like different parts of it. So we help them like, because we have like certain things that we have to do just, legally and have been set out by like the city charter and environmental, all these different all these different groups. So we help craft it there, but we're not necessarily like, oh, let's put a thing right here, or let's put a development right here. Like we help craft it so that it works best for the neighborhood that it's in. Does that help a little bit with what you were asking?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
No problem.
Luke?
Yeah, so private applications go to the city vets them, but for the private application to get the city, it requires an attorney. It requires a lot of fine-tuned details of the really complicated zoning process, and that's what we need help with. If we have a vision for our neighborhood, I've heard from board members about looking at Boston Road, seeing if we can do something more regenerative. I know that there was a couple decades ago, a plan for Boston Road kind of fell to the wayside, but we've got ideas for what we want to see in our community, but it's a really long slog. So that's why if we have professionals who maybe are adept in kind of the nonprofit side of this, seeing this through a holistic lens, it might be a really great opportunity to invest in our ideas.
So
Yes.
yeah, look,
All right.
I've been trying to be patient about this, but this is the problem that we have. We raised an issue just tonight expecting a vote when nobody knows what a 197A plan, because do you understand what a 197, when Luke is talking about envisioning a plan, or when Beatrice talks about envisioning a plan for the future of this district, that means more housing. That means dramatically changing what Boston Road looks like. Boston Road wasn't decades ago. It was, the first iteration of it was, but it happened right before we did a design charrettes here in this building with, and they came and the city planning did this, Luke. Came here and did a thing, and then COVID killed it. And I don't know, is Boston Road shelved right now, Brenna? Because city planning's all about it. And let me just say this. I've been around for a very long time. I've been doing this job for a long time. There's only several community boards in the Bronx that have a 197A plan. Maybe you should invite them and ask them how their visions turned out. Because it hasn't been very successful. Because again, what you're asking for is a vision. What's going to happen, to Luke's point and to everybody's point, that some private developer is going to come in like they do now and develop what they want to develop. And when we sit there and we talk about ULURPs and all this stuff, this is what the whole city of Yes was. We're giving them permission. We basically wrote a blank check on City of Yes and said, go ahead, do whatever you want. ULURP gives you the opportunity to say, this is what I want to see. So when Wakefield Village comes here, you can smile and smirk all you want, but we wanted the school. That was the vision. We wanted the school, and we weren't going to say yes until we got a school.
But the thing is, respectfully, we're relying on private applicants to do our visionary actions. That's not right. We have an opportunity to at least, sure, there are obstacles, there are setbacks, there are roadblocks, but let's $20,000. The city has the funds. Our elected officials have the funds. Let's get a conversation started. Let's tell people what our vision is.
It won't
get it
hurt
out.
us. And it doesn't mean that we have a vision and it's going to happen. It's just an opportunity for us to have a vision as a board. So can we just do the vote? Any questions yet?
So in the alternative, if we voted no and you made a determination to send it back to committee and the committee heard it in sometime in April, and it was back in front of the board in May, how would that affect our opportunity to request those budgetary funds? That kind of delay.
We don't know, but by that point, they may have already allocated to other things coming to them. Right now is when people, they have their public hearings and they have their, people advocating for funds that they want for their needs. So the longer we delay, and again, this is just asking, this doesn't mean we're going through with it. It's just what our options are.
It depends on how you approach it. If the money is given directly to the community board, there's no deadline on that. City council goes through funding all the time. They can give $20,000 to, I don't know, George Torres not-for-profit. And George Torres not-for-profit doesn't spend it the right way. They get to reallocate that money before the year end. If you give it to George Torres, if you decide, oh, I don't want to do it that way, I want to give it to a city planner directly, and they have a nonprofit, or not a city planner, but a planner directly, you want to give it to the NYU Wagner School because they have planners. They graduate planners all the time. Then that's a completely different animal. And then Beatrice's point is that has to go through the process of, but if you give it to the city council, we don't have to fill out those types of forms. We're not a non-for-profit, we're a city agency. If Kevin or Eric wanted to give us money, could. Let me just, again, I'm not trying to, it's not as easy as it seems either, but again, if you want to make that request, that's completely fine. It's not a straightforward process, but it's not dead if you wait until May, if you do it strictly through the community board, because we're a city agency. So that's transferring money from your checking to your savings account. That's not a big deal.
Sorry. Do we believe having this discretionary funds could actually help in our vision? That's the ultimate question. Do we believe if we have the resource they're sitting and we sit as a board, have committees decide that, look, here's what we'd like to do, would it be something that you think would be helpful?
I do, but
I'm just trying to find out. I mean, because like I said, I don't want to be here and all we do simply is like I said, rubber stamp thing and just go over thing. If we want to see something better in this community, we need to have a vision for this community. Now, if we're going to do that, then we may need some resources to do that. I'm just asking that if you believe that that would be helpful. It's really about the money. Can we get this money? And if we can get the money, then can we then determine what we want to do with it as a group?
Right.
That's all I'm asking.
All right, guys, we got to move forward.
Yes.
It's getting late, guys.
It's like, the voting on committees, we still haven't decided where we're going to consolidate. We have to move.
I would like to say something. So I think maybe because what it is, this is a little bit confusing for me. So we have this motion on the floor, and with all the discussion that's occurring right now, but I think what it should probably be is a motion to research, or probably we already did that, hiring the private city planner instead of the motion on the floor to seek the discretionary fund to hire. Maybe you want to research it more, right?
I think that
because the motion is on the floor, so you really should be voting.
Yeah.
Then because you've had a lot of questions, but the motion is still on the floor. That was second.
Yeah, it's been first and seconded.
Yes.
We're waiting for the roll call. But
Right.
the ask is, we have the ask, we know the ask. The ask is to request discretionary funding. And that's, it doesn't hurt to ask.
So discretionary funding to to retain a private city planner
A
or
private
or discretionary
urban planner.
funding? Urban planner.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what the motion is on the floor that
Right.
you need to vote on.
Yeah. Just asking, just asking.
Okay, so that's
We're
what,
not securing one.
okay, so that's what
The very first step of the process.
that's what the motion should be, to inquire about a city planner. You have a motion on the floor to seek discretionary funding, to seek retaining a private or urban city planner. So that's what, you need to figure it out. It's
No,
not really-
we're asking for funding. We're asking for discretionary funding. That's the motion on the floor. And I haven't amended it, but I mean, I think that's pretty clear. It gets the ball rolling in the direction of our elected officials and says, hey, are you going to fund this? Are you going to work with us to figure out a good way to bring this vision to life?
Okay.
Okay, one last question and then we want to keep it moving because we
Yeah,
have.
I just want to ask this to Luke. Ooh, okay. I just want to ask, so when we get the answer, right, and they say yes, or no, I'm just saying if they say yes, because no is just a no, but a yes is different steps. Is this going to the committee and then it's going to come back to the board that it was a yes and what we want to do with it? Right? Okay, so inquire. It's an inquire, and it's not a yes that's gonna make steps. I can see confused faces. I'm gonna put this down. Okay, thank you.
All right, can we take the vote? All right. To speak loud. Uh,
Clear, the motion, okay, so the motion either is to inquire.
No,
The
no.
motion, no, it's not to
I'm sorry,
inquire.
I'm saying what the motion is that I put on the floor. It's a motion to request discretionary funding. It is requesting funding. And this is not, if there's a different motion, we can vote on that after this one. But the motion that I've put on the floor is to request funding. And this is going to be our employee of the board to some extent. So this is our vision. This is somebody that's going to work for the board. We're going to form this thing. It's not going to be some other person that's directing the board. This is our vision.
Right, and it's what Wayne said, right? What are we doing as a board? Okay, so let's just take the vote. You can say yes or you can say no if you're not with it, right? It's for a board vote. It's not just me, it's not just Luke. As a board, what do we want to see our board doing? Why are we
Hey.
here? Okay, all right. Yes.
all right. Remember, speak loud. Carla Basati. Okay. Patricia Boswell. Aye. Michelle. I didn't hear you. Stay. Desiree Campbell.
Aye.
Haiti Campbell. Joan Quad. Atonia Davis. Tolene Dickerson.
Abstain.
Denise Echeverria.
Aye.
Alfredo. Alfredo Figueroa. Abstain. Hartika. One. Hartika.
Aye.
Okay. Johnny Goff. Darren Grant.
Nay.
Okay. Sheila Grierson. Sandra, no. Robert Hall.
Aye.
John Isaac. James Theodore. Theodore James, I mean. Robert Link. Javid Malik. Okay. Antoinette Mitchell. Abstain. Clinton's not here. Wayne Palmer. Reginald Paris. Ariel Peters. You need time, you say? Oh, I thought you said need time. I'm sorry. Oh. Okay. Dr. Sherry Samuels? Benga Suber?
Aye.
Luke Sablos? Deborah Walker? And Beatrice Cornell? Aye. Okay.
And Carl
Um,
Stricker is an aye.
Okay.
Can we have a reading of the vote totals?
Something I gotta.
I'm sorry.
Here. 22 yes to 6. Motion passes. Yes, okay. All right, so now we're gonna move on. The next one is economic and business services, but
Guys, let's do this. We could go home. All right, so on February 15th, 2024, the Economic and Business Service Committee met regarding 3 liquor licenses. 2 of them are for one, guys, shh. 2 of them are for one particular establishment and the other 2 are new. Wembley Athletic Club, Inc., located at 550 East 239th Street. They're requesting renewal of 2 of their liquor licenses. Goodbyes Caribbean Restaurant and Lounge, Inc., 987 East 233rd Street. They're requesting a new liquor license. Dax Cuisine, Inc., 3431 East Chester Road, requesting a new liquor license. The committee voted in favor to send a letter of recommendation, and we're asking the board for the same. Thank you and have a happy Easter. If you want, we could lump all 3 at the same time instead of doing everything.
Well, first they have to accept your recommendation from the committee.
Motion.
Motion
Someone make a
to
motion?
accept the committee report.
Second.
Okay.
You did the, yes. Okay, make the motion for the all 3.
For the vote.
I make a motion, right? For all three votes be unanimous. I mean, unanimous, right? In support of the same, instead of doing one by one. Okay. All in favor? Any nays, abstains? Any abstentions? Hammer, no?
Parks is next.
So one thing we're struggling with is getting quorum. We were hoping to vote as a committee to write a letter to our elected officials to fund Shoelace Park, especially since it's been flooding and it's been getting a lot of dirty water onto playground equipment. We're asking the board now for permission to write a letter to our elected officials to demand funding for Shoelace Park. So that's what we're asking here tonight. Kindly approve.
So first, make a motion to approve your committee report.
I make a motion to approve my committee report.
Second.
Can we do it by voice
Unanimous
vote?
vote?
All in favor? Any abstentions, any nays? Hearing none. Thanks.
Thank you. One last item on the report, Carla.
So the last item is a proposed change to bylaws that I submitted at the previous month's meeting, that we change from a 10-day meeting notice as currently required in the bylaws to 7 days, which is consistent with the New York City open meeting law. So again, let's do a voice vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions?
No, just a vote. Yeah.
Well, anybody can, right.
Yeah.
And it was announced in the previous meeting. Right.
Okay. All right. Last, we have John Isaac, Transportation.
I'll be quick, guys. The Transportation Committee met on March 14th, and present was DOT, and they came and they presented improvements for Barnes Avenue, like the intersection of 233rd Street and 236th Street. There's been a lot of problems over there with accidents, and it kind of like you driving and you just meander into like these huge open spaces. So they're gonna like streamline over there. They're gonna actually put crosswalks that are missing and upgrade the drop curbs and stuff like that. So they just came to present that to us. Also, Montefiore North came to us, and they would like to actually convert Carpenter Avenue one way going south. So the committee had a problem with it because if the ambulance leaves to go down, say the ambulance is going to the Bronx River, you have to go into ongoing traffic. And we're like, no, that's not gonna be a problem. So part of the problem is like, there's a food truck that's there like blocking, and they just did a new development across the street. So cars are always like double park out there, whatever. So we're gonna put up, I think we should get like no parking signs or whatever, but we're gonna revisit that probably with them this coming meeting. I don't even think it's a couple months ago. I think it was last year. I think PS 68 came to us, and the other school was the Rosa Park School down at Boston Road and
Steenwick.
189 and Steinwick, yes. So they also have a problem down there with the buses unloading and everyone racing to go to the 95. So we wanted to do a study down there, and there weren't a borough commissioner in place. So the whole study fell through. So we would like to get a study done for PS 68 and for 189 to study the traffic around there and possibly turn stop into a one-way going south. Because right now they put up like a little sign, and I actually drove through the sign myself because it's a little like 18 by 18 sign, and saying one way at 7 o'clock to 10 p.m. 10 a.m. or something like that. Which, you know, the kids are our first priority. Yeah, so we're gonna try to turn that into a one way. So I'm requesting permission for the board to ask DOT to do a study, just do a general study, and then report back to us their findings. Yeah, on both. PS 68 and 189. And we might as well, and the same thing, we might as well do the hospital too. No, just a study. It's a study. That was part of the
John,
thing
John, can I interrupt you?
Yes.
Yeah, I did a design to satisfy our thoughts and the hospital issues. I did a street design, which we can accommodate both issues. Where
Okay.
we only have a northbound lane between the hospital exit and 233rd Street. Otherwise,
Okay.
everything will be south, heading south of the hospital exit.
Okay.
So Reggie Jordan's supposed to call me tomorrow. We're supposed to discuss it, and we'll have it. I think we can have it together for the next meeting.
Okay. Okay, so we're not gonna vote on a hospital. We're gonna vote on PS 189 and PS 68. Just to do a general study because of the problems with the kids out there.
All right, I make a motion to do the study. John?
Okay, so, oh, it's not on the agenda? Okay. So I'm gonna come back next month for that. Because it's not on the agenda, and get it on the agenda.
Just make sure you join his committee.
They didn't put it?
And that's why the consolidation was important.
Can't we amend the agenda and vote on it tonight?
We've been
No.
waiting for this for a long time.
We have.
Yes.
Can we make an amendment? I'm making a vote.
Committee on Open Committees doesn't allow us to vote on things that are not on our agenda. So you have to put it on the agenda. It has to be shared with people. They have to know what they're voting for. Yeah.
Like 7 or 10 days.
Yeah. That's it's 3 days, but
Yeah.
April 11th.
Next month is fine. It's been lingering around for a little while, so next month is fine.
I thought it was just the meeting notice. The fact that we meet, that has to be, what we talk about can fluctuate. The meeting notice is what is required to be published within 3 days. What we talk about can change. This can come up and we can make a motion on something that isn't exactly on here.
rules are clear.
It's no big deal.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm
Yeah,
not clear.
it's not on my understanding from this and, you know, if anybody from that knows what the rules are governing this, but if it's not on the agenda, you can't vote on stuff. Because somebody might have wanted to come and speak during the public gallery session about that very issue that we were voting on.
That's correct, George.
But then how is it that, for example, like what John just raised, that we discussed this, it was months ago that we wanted that study. So what happened with that?
Still has to be on the agenda.
You got a new borough, you have a new borough engineer. And he said he would look into the old study and do a new study.
I'm sorry, what was that, Carl?
I said we have a new borough engineer who came to the meeting earlier this month. And
But he didn't know about
introduced
any of these,
himself.
so then.
We discussed things with him, and 168 was brought up, and 189 was 68 and 189 were brought up, and we told him that studies were in the process. He said he would check it out and continue the studies. Basically, that's what he
He
said.
said he knew nothing about it, Carl.
I know. He
Yeah, he said he knew nothing about it.
yeah, he said he would look into it, and if they're there, he will follow through.
George, can you follow up for us? Because we don't have his contact info. Anthony, I think his name was Anthony. Yeah, Perez. Because he said he knew
Anthony
nothing
Perez,
about the
right.
studies that we have requested. Okay.
I believe Chief Talbot's still there, and he's the one that promised to do it.
Okay. Thank you, Carl. Yes.
Just for the records, I'd like it to show that I actually abstained from voting on the minutes of 12/14. 23, I was not present for that meeting. I voted for the January 25th and 2/22, but abstained for 12/14.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. And that concludes our meeting for today. Wishing everybody a great weekend.
We're closing out our meeting at 9:41. Beatrice, Beatrice, can we just make, can we have a first and second on the adjournment?
They did. Oh, Robert and John.
Thank you.
Night, everyone.